Thank you, JC, and thanks to Bob Pettinger and this group. Isn't it wonderful that people can be here today and talk honestly and rather roughly about some of the challenges facing the world. So I'm going to only make a couple of remarks or add-ons to what you just heard. You just heard, I think, a very thorough exchange or an explanation of views on some of the problems facing the world. So I wanted to build on that and also thank Carla Sands. I know I'm going to, I saw my friend Dante Disparte, who's going to talk about digital assets, I hope, and tomorrow's program looks really strong for this group as well. So congratulations to everyone. So first, let me talk about economics. The world's facing this giant challenge that capital is being allocated to countries that already have a lot of capital. So if you think of it in income inequality terms, it's getting progressively worse from that standpoint. We need a lot more investment to go into countries that are underinvested. But what we see very clearly in the world is the buildup of capital and of electricity production in advanced economies, not in developing economies. I've written a lot about this both at the World Bank and in the Wall Street Journal, that this problem is, I think, progressively getting worse. If you think of it from the standpoint just of fiscal spending, the U.S. government's projected course of spending as a percentage of total governments around the world is going rapidly higher, meaning the world is heavily dependent on decisions made in Washington on how to spend the world's savings. The U.S. draws on global savings almost effortlessly through the Treasury bond issuance market, and the amount of capital is growing rapidly that's allocated by the U.S. government and through the policies of the U.S. government. That's a challenge to Europe to say get going and get growing, and I think you heard Carla Sands make very clear remarks about where Europe's drawbacks are preventing it from growing, and those problems, I think, are getting worse. So that's point number one, that we have this tremendous economic challenge. Point number two is the challenge of China. It's not highlighted in the national security strategy. You just heard people explaining that. But as I look at what's going on in the world, China is building stronger and stronger in terms of its soft power as the U.S. Soft power weakens around the world. And so I'll just mention some of the things that I worked on from the World Bank. One is the debt, the Belt and Road debt. The world has developed a system that's strongly supportive of China's debt repayment cycle. So that I tried during COVID to have a moratorium on debt payments. That became the common framework of the G20, which in my mind has been a complete failure. That evolved, and I initiated the Global Sovereign Debt Roundtable, GSDR, which continues now through the G20 process, also a complete failure. And so we're left with a world financial system that can't really deal with the Chinese sovereign debt challenges that are out there. We need to find a way that over-indebted countries have a bankruptcy or a default process that actually allows them to have light at the end of the tunnel and move forward. And so that requires, I think, substantial changes through the financial system process. China, of course, is putting pressure through the currency systems and through their own concept of stable digital currencies. They're running a pilot program in Myanmar. We see the tensions within Southeast Asia, Cambodia and Thailand having tensions today, the Chinese buildup of huge capacity to move equipment around within Southeast Asia. That's the domestic ferry system that can transport equipment and goods, and that's also the Chinese barge system, the coastal barge system, that is a huge growing power within Southeast Asia. So these pressure Taiwan. There was talk in the last session about the physical attacks not being so problematic, but in my mind, the cyber attacks, but also the economic pressure that's being exerted by Russia on Eastern Europe and by China on Southeast Asia are giant security issues for the United States that will require a direct address from the U.S. And is not evident in the national security strategy that's just come out. I want to mention the hemispheric initiative that is in the national security strategy. My first work in Washington was on Latin America, and I then became at the State Department the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Latin America. And one of the mentions in the previous was the importance of the Panama Canal, which is evident, but I think also a follow-on from that is the dire importance of the U.S. and Canada having pipelines to the West Coast so that we can take some of the pressure off the transit, the shipping capacities through the Panama Canal. This is a huge directional shift, and that gets me straight into the permitting problem. You heard in the previous section the importance of critical materials and China's strong lock on the processing of critical materials, but the reality of where we're going right now is there's lots of talk around the world of ways to diversify from dependence on China, but the requirements are massive. That means permitting, which is going very slowly. That means mining, but more importantly, that means the skills of manufacturing and processing of goods. And the U.S. and Europe are going rapidly downhill on that, not the uphill path, or not the progress that's needed to actually be competitive within global materials. And so the Western Hemisphere offers some promise, but there has to be execution in each phase. Even take Venezuela, huge oil resources, but if there were freedom within Venezuela, would there actually be the capability to take advantage of the resources that are there for the benefit of free people across the Western Hemisphere? I think that will take substantial amount of building. And then I wanted to mention and maybe close with the importance of digital and digital payment systems. That was mentioned by Carla. The European Union is way behind on that. China is moving very quickly. The U.S., I'm happy to see with the Genius Act making legislative progress, but I think there needs to be much more in regard to the regulatory structure in the U.S. that guards the interoperability of digital systems. But I'll focus on the upside for people in development. If we think about my first point was that investment is not going where it's most needed. That actually can be repaired and advanced through a digital payment system that progresses rapidly. If you think about the advances in East Africa that were made with Kenya's digital payment system, that was a big step, but we should recognize that all of the underpinnings of those systems operate on Chinese hardware and equipment, and so having a vertically integrated supply chain for the digital system is going to be one of the biggest challenges for the United States in particular. I think Europe will take a long time to begin catching up in that, but it offers this huge upside in terms of per capita income for those countries that adopt stable currency systems. This is something that I've worked on for a long time, both in the U.S. government and at the World Bank, and I think there is some progress being made, but digital currencies offer stable digital currencies, so stable dollar or stable euro digital currencies offer tremendous upside that could liberate people in poorer countries that are right now subject to financial systems that simply don't operate. So with that, I wanted to be brief and see if there's discussion, and I'm piggybacking on two brilliant speakers in the previous session, so I can't compete with them on the comprehensiveness of their remarks, but I think it's wonderful that you're here and discussing where can the world go in order to be a better place and a safer place for everyone. Thanks. Any questions?